How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, February 5th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances that took place yesterday on Friday, February 4th, 2022. I'm also going to preview everything that's going on today, and right before I do so, just take a quick step back and look at where we are in the calendar year. With the football season being over, we are at the final matchup for the Super Bowl, but before that, we do have the Pro Bowl coming up tomorrow. In basketball, the college and professional basketball seasons are in the second half of their season, as the college basketball season sees teams in the midst of their conference schedules, and the NBA is leading right into the All-Star weekend, as the NBA has selected All-Stars. Not to mention that in soccer, we are in the second half of the season, not to mention that we are in the final stage of AFCON, as the third place matchup is going to be today, not to mention that the final is going to be tomorrow. And like I said, because today is Saturday, we are going to be entering yet another weekend of a lot of soccer. With that said, starting with college basketball, looking at what's going on today, because no top 25 teams played yesterday. I'm going down the list in terms of chronological order. Starting off at noon, the 12th ranked Villanova Wildcats are going to host the 17th ranked UConn Huskies on Fox in Philadelphia in the Wells Fargo Center. At 12, at the same time on ESPN, the unranked Indiana Hoosiers are going to host the 18th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini on ESPN. Both these games are going to be pretty good. Looking back at the Big East matchup, 17th ranked UConn enters that matchup with a 6-3 record in the Big East. 12th ranked Villanova enters that matchup with a 9-3 record. And then the other game at noon, Illinois enters this Big Ten matchup with a 9-2 record. At 1 o'clock, the top-ranked Auburn Tigers are going to go to Athens, Georgia, and face off against the unranked Georgia Bulldogs. Auburn enters this matchup with a 9-0 record in the SEC. They are the only team that has yet to lose in conference play. At the same time, at 1 o'clock, the 22nd ranked Tennessee Volunteers are going to go to Columbia, South Carolina, and face off against unranked South Carolina. 22nd ranked Tennessee enters this matchup with a 6-3 record. At 2 o'clock on ESPN, the 14th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders are going to go to Morgantown and face off against the unranked West Virginia Mountaineers. Texas Tech enters this matchup with a 6-3 Big 12 record. At 2 o'clock at the same time, the 23rd ranked Texas Longhorns are going to host the 20th ranked Iowa State Cyclones in Austin, Texas on Longhorn Network. The hometown Texas Longhorns enter this matchup with a 5-4 Big 12 record, and the road dog Iowa State Cyclones enter this matchup with a 3-6 Big 12 record. At the same time, at 2 o'clock, the 21st ranked Xavier Musketeers are going to host unranked DePaul on Fox Sports 1. Xavier enters his matchup with a 6-4 record in the Big East. At 2:30, the 4th ranked Purdue Boilermakers are going to host the unranked Michigan Wolverines on Fox. Purdue enters his matchup with an 8-3 record in the Big Ten. At 4 o'clock, the defending champs, 8th ranked Baylor Bears, are going to go to Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas, to face off against the 10th ranked Kansas Jayhawks, as that's going to be the third matchup of the day between two ranked opponents. Kansas enters his matchup with a 7-1 Big 12 record. Baylor enters his matchup with a 7-2 Big 12 record. At the same time, at 4 o'clock, the 13th ranked Michigan State Spartans are going to go to New Jersey and face off against unranked Rutgers on Fox Sports 1. Michigan State enters his matchup with an 8-2 record in the Big Ten. At 5 o'clock on Fox, the 7th ranked Arizona Wildcats are going to host the 19th ranked USC Trojans from Tucson. USC enters this matchup with a 9-3 record in the Pac-12. Arizona enters this matchup with an 8-1 record in the Pac-12. At 6 o'clock, one of the most storied rivalries in the history of college basketball will take place on ESPN, as unranked North Carolina is going to host 9th ranked Duke, my alma mater. Duke enters this matchup with an 8-2 record in the ACC. As of now, they are the only ACC team that is ranked. At the same time, at 6 o'clock, the 11th ranked Wisconsin Badgers are going to host the unranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Wisconsin enters this matchup with an 8-3 Big Ten record. This matchup will be on Big Ten Network. At the same time, at 6 o'clock, the 25th ranked LSU Tigers are going to go to Nashville, Tennessee, and face off against the unranked Vanderbilt Commodores on SEC Network. At 8 o'clock on ESPN, the 5th-ranked Kentucky Wildcats are going to go to Tuscaloosa and face off against the unranked Alabama Crimson Tide. Kentucky enters this matchup with a 7-2 SEC record. At 10 o'clock, the 2nd-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs are going to go to Provo, Utah, and face off against the unranked BYU Cougars. And then, last but not least, at the same time, at 10 o'clock, the 3rd-ranked UCLA Bruins are going to go to Tempe, Arizona, face off against the unranked Arizona State Sun Devils. UCLA enters this matchup with an 8-2 record in the Pac-12. So that's what's going on with college basketball. Taking a look at what's going on at the NFL level, the next matchup that's going to be taking place will be the Pro Bowl tomorrow at 3 o'clock on ESPN on ABC, as next week's Super Bowl matchup is already set up between the 4th seed in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the 4th seed in the NFC, Los Angeles Rams, in the Rams Stadium, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Taking a look at what's going on with the NBA, looking at yesterday's matchup, starting off in Charlotte, the Hornets hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers beat the Charlotte Hornets 102-101. The Cavaliers won this game by 1 after outscoring the Hornets by 15 in the second quarter and by 5 in the third, by 20 in the middle 2 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Charlotte Hornets were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Terry Rozier. Rozier finished with 24 points in 40 minutes. He shot 9 for 21 from the field, 4 for 14 for 3, and he shot a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Kelly Oubre Jr., finished with 21 points and 9 rebounds in 28 minutes. He shot 7 for 19 from the field, 4 for 13 from 3, and he would shoot a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, LaMelo Ball, finished with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 6 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field, he shot 2 for 3 from 3, and he shot a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Cleveland Cavaliers were led in scoring by their starting center out of Texas, Jared Allen. Allen finished with 29 points and 22 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 12 for 20 from the field, and he shot 5 for 7 from the foul line. Their power forward off the bench, Kevin Love, finished with 25 points and 9 rebounds in 26 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, 6 for 14 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 32-21. That is the 3rd best record in the East. They are tied with the Milwaukee Bucks. They now sit they've won 7 of their last 10 games. They sit a game and a half behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Charlotte Hornets are 28-25. That is the 9th best record in the East. They have now lost their last 3 games. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They currently sit half a game behind the 8th seed Boston Celtics outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Speaking of the Celtics went to Detroit and were able to beat the Pistons 102-93. The Celtics won this game by 9 after they outscored the Pistons by 12 in the first quarter, by 15 in the first half, and by 22 in the first 3 quarters of the game. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their starting small forward Sadiq Bey and their starting shooting guard Hamidou Diallo. Bey finished with 21 points in 35 minutes. He shot 6 for 17 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Diallo finished with 21 points and 14 rebounds in 28 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, and he would go on to shoot 4 for 6 from the foul line. Within this matchup, or on the winning end of this game, the Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum. Their small forward out of Duke finished with 24 points and 9 rebounds in 28 minutes. He shot 9 for 21 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and he shot 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the Boston Celtics are now 29-25. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 4 games, and they've won 7 of their last 10. They currently sit 5 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls out east. With this loss, the Detroit Pistons are now 12-40. That is the second worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. They're the second team in the NBA to cross the 40-loss threshold this year. Taking a look at what went down in Indianapolis, the Indiana Pacers hosted the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. The Bulls beat the Pacers 122-115. They won this matchup by 7 after they outscored the Pacers by 7 in the very first quarter of this game. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Pacers were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Michigan, Karis LeVert. He finished with 42 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists, all in 41 minutes. He shot 19 for 26 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. The Pacers starting shooting guard for the day, Terry Taylor, out of Austin Peay, will go on to finish with 21 points for himself, alongside 14 rebounds and 5 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field. He will go on to shoot 1 for 2 from 3 and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their starting center, Nikola Vucevic. He finished with 36 points and 17 rebounds, alongside 4 assists and 3 blocks in 37 minutes. He shot 16 for 21 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and he shot 3 for 7 from the foul line. Their all-star starting small forward, DeMar DeRozan, finished with 31 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 6 turnovers in 39 minutes. He shot 11 for 26 from the field and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard out of Illinois, Ayo Dosunmu, finished with 15 points, 14 assists, and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 6 for 9 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he shot 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are now 33-19. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10 games. They now sit half a game behind the East Conference leading Chicago, or they sit 1 game ahead of the second seed Miami Heat for the time being, and that's where they are. As they hold a very tight lead, they only sit 5 games ahead of the 8th seed Boston Celtics at the moment. With this loss, the Indiana Pacers are 19-35. That is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 6 of their last 10. They currently sit 10 games behind the 8th seed Boston Celtics outside of the playoff picture out east. Jumping up north of the border, the Toronto Raptors hosted the Atlanta Hawks. The Raptors beat the Hawks 125-114. The Raptors won this game by 11 after outscoring the Hawks by 11 in the first quarter and by 9 in the third quarter, 10 for the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their starting small forward, DeAndre Hunter, out of Virginia, and their starting power forward out of Wake Forest, John Collins. Hunter finished with 23 points in 36 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. John Collins finished with 23 points and 6 rebounds in 34 minutes. Collins shot 10 for 19 from the field. He would go on to shoot 1 for 2 from the foul line as well. The Hawks' elite starting point guard, Trae Young, finished with 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 13 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their all-star starting shooting guard, Fred VanVleet, out of Wichita State. Or I guess he was not their leading scorer, but Fred VanVleet, their all-star, finished with 26 points, 4 rebounds, and 11 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt of the night. The Raptors' leading scorer was their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam. He finished with 33 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists in 40 minutes. He went on to shoot 11 for 16 from the field, 3 for 3 from 3, and he shot 8 for 9 9 from the foul line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are 28-23. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 5 games. That is the longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference, the second longest active winning streak in the NBA behind the Golden State Warriors. The Raptors have won 7 of their last 10 games. They sit 4.5 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. And with this loss, the Atlanta Hawks are now 25-27. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've only lost 2 of their last 10 games. They sit 3 games behind the 8th seed Boston Celtics outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Jumping down to San Antonio, Texas, the San Antonio Spurs hosted the Houston Rockets from within the state. The Spurs beat the Rockets 131-106. The Spurs won this matchup by 25 after they went on to outscore the Rockets by 17 in the third quarter, by 22 for the second half of this matchup. On the losing end of this matchup, the Rockets were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Josh Christopher. He would go on to finish with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting center, Christian Wood, finished with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 31 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field and 1 for 2 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of Kentucky, Keldon Johnson. He finished with 28 points and 7 rebounds alongside 2 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 11 for 17 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting center, Jakob Poeltl, finished with 21 points and 10 rebounds alongside 3 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, DeJounte Murray, finished with 19 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field. With this win, the San Antonio Spurs are 20-34. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10 games, and they currently sit 7 games behind the 8th seed LA Clippers out west. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are 15-37. That is the worst record in the Western Conference and the 3rd worst record in the NBA for that matter. The Rockets have now lost 6 of their last 10 games, and they currently sit 11 games behind the 8th seed LA Clippers out west. Taking a look at what went down in Salt Lake City, the Utah Jazz hosted the Brooklyn Nets, and the Jazz beat the Nets 125-102. The Jazz won this matchup by 23 after they outscored the Nets by 9 in the first quarter, 12 in the second quarter, and 11 in the third quarter, as they would combine to outscore the Jazz by 32 points in the first 3 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the Nets were led in scoring by their shooting guard off the bench, Cam Thomas. Thomas finished with 30 points, 2 rebounds, and 4 assists in 31 minutes. He shot 11 for 19 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. The Nets' elite starting point guard out of Duke, Kyrie Irving, finished with 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists in 31 minutes. He shot 6 for 20 from the field and 3 for 8 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Utah Jazz were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell. He finished with 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 6 assists in 22 minutes. He shot 8 for 10 from the field, 6 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Bojan Bogdanovic, finished with 19 points and 11 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field and 3 for 7 from 3. Their starting center, Udoka Azubuike, finished with 10 points and 11 rebounds in 24 minutes. He shot 5 for 8 from the field. With this win, the Utah Jazz are now 32-21. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they currently sit 10 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. With this loss, the Brooklyn Nets are now 29-23. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they've currently lost their last 7 games. The Nets' 7-game losing streak is the longest active losing streak in the NBA. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games, and the Nets now sit 4 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. Taking a look at what went down in Denver, the Nuggets hosted the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans would end up beating the Nuggets 113-105. The Pelicans won this matchup by 8 after they outscored the Pelicans by 8 in the fourth quarter to break their tie going in. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their elite starting center, last year's NBA MVP Nikola Jokic. He would go on to finish with 25 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, a perfect 3 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Herbert Jones. He finished with 25 points in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 10 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Brandon Ingram, finished with 23 points, 4 rebounds, 12 assists, and 2 blocks in 38 minutes. Ingram shot 8 for 20 from the field and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. And then their starting center out of Texas, Jackson Hayes, finished with 22 points and 11 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot a perfect 9 for 9 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the New Orleans Pelicans are 20-32. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 2 games and they've won 4 of their last 10. They sit 6 games behind the 8 seed LA Clippers out west. With this loss, the Denver Nuggets are 28-24. That is the 6th best record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 3 games. That is the 2nd longest active losing streak in the Western Conference. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games. They sit 13.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns for the time being. Taking a look now at what's going on in Dallas, Texas, the Mavericks hosted the Philadelphia 76ers. The Mavericks would beat the 76ers 107-98. The Mavs won this matchup by 9 after they outscored the 76ers by 17 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Philadelphia 76ers were led in scoring by their elite starting center out of Kansas, Joel Embiid. Embiid finished with 27 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 11 for 14 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Dallas Mavericks were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Slovenia, Luka Doncic. Doncic finished with 33 points, 13 rebounds, 15 assists, and 2 steals in 40 minutes. He shot 13 for 28 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, and 6 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Reggie Bullock, finished with 20 points in 36 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Dallas Mavericks are now 30-23. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10 games, and they now sit 12 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns in the playoff push. With this loss, the Philadelphia 76ers are 31-21. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 10. Sitting in the 5th spot in the East, they sit 2 games behind the 1st seed Chicago Bulls out east. Taking a look at what went down in Portland, the Trailblazers hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder, and in the last game of the night, the Thunder would beat the Trailblazers 96-93. They won this matchup by 3 after outscoring the Blazers by 4 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 1-point deficit going in. The Thunder outscored the Blazers by 7 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Trailblazers were led in scoring by their starting shooting guards, C.J. McCollum and Anthony Simons. McCollum finished with 19 points and 6 rebounds in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 24 from the field. Simons finished with 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field and 4 for 5 from the foul line. The Blazers starting center, Yusuf Nurkic, finished with 15 points alongside 14 points alongside 16 rebounds and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 6 for 19 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Luguentz Dort. He finished with 23 points and 7 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and he would go on to shoot 5 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 17 and 34. That is currently the second worst record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 3 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting they're currently sitting 8.5 games behind the 8 seed LA Clippers in the Western Conference outside of the playoff picture right now. With this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are 21 and 32. That is the 10th best record in the West. They've currently lost their last 4 games. That is the longest active losing streak in the Western Conference, and that is the second longest losing streak right now behind the Brooklyn Nets. And also with this loss, the Trailblazers have lost 7 of their last 10. They are currently sitting 5.5 games behind the 8 seed LA Clippers out west. That is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's performances. And then, of course, taking a quick glimpse of what it's looking like as we enter today's Saturday matchups. The first game that'll be on primetime will be on ABC, as the Los Angeles Lakers, who hold the 9th best record in the West, are going to host the New York Knicks in the Crypto.com Arena on ABC. The Knicks hold the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. Looking at the games that aren't on prime time, at 5 o'clock, the Orlando Magic, who are currently holding the worst record in the NBA, are going to host the Memphis Grizzlies. As with a loss here, the Magic will, of course, clinch a losing season for the year this early. They'll be the first team to do so. They would be if they lost today. At 7 o'clock, the Charlotte Hornets are going to host the Miami Heat in the Spectrum Center. At the same time, the Washington Wizards are going to host the Phoenix Suns at the Capital One Arena. At 10 o'clock, the Portland Trailblazers are going to host the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks in the Moda Center. And then at the same time, the Sacramento Kings are going to host the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Golden One Center. That's what the NBA is looking like. And then last but not least, taking a glance of what went down in the world of soccer. The only big matchup that took place was a fourth round matchup in the English FA Cup, where Manchester United would end up drawing with Middlesbrough in regulation. Man U's only goal came in the 25th minute from their elite English forward, Jadon Sancho. Once it went to penalties, Middlesbrough would end up beating Manchester United 8-7 on penalties, as they will advance to the next round. Taking a look at what's going on today within that same tournament, Chelsea's going to face off against Plymouth Argyle at 7:30 a.m. Manchester City's going to face off against Fulham at 10 a.m. And really quickly taking a look at where these teams sit right now, Chelsea is sitting 3rd in the Premier League. Man City is sitting 1st. And then Tottenham Hotspur is going to face off against Brighton and Hove Albion. Tottenham enters this matchup as the 7th best team in the Premier League. Taking a look at what is going down in the Bundesliga in Germany, the reigning Bundesliga champs and Bayern Munich are going to face off against RB Leipzig. Bayern currently sits at the very top of the Bundesliga. RB Leipzig is currently sitting 6th at the moment. With a 6-point lead over Dortmund, a win would do a lot for Bayern, but of course a loss would not knock them out of first place. Taking a look at what's going on in the Italian Serie A, Inter Milan is going to face off against AC Milan in what is going to be the Milan Derby at 12 o'clock. Many people in Italy, of course, expecting this matchup. Inter sitting 1st and Milan tied with Napoli for the 2nd best record in Serie A, as Milan now sits 3rd in the table. And then also Lazio is going to face off against Fiorentina in Florence at 2:45. Roma sits 6th as they face off against Genoa. And then not to mention, looking at what's going on in the African Cup of Nations, today will be the 3rd cup matchup to see which team will finish with the bronze medal. Burkina Faso, of course, entered this matchup after they would go on to finish 2nd in their overall Group A, right behind Cameroon, and they were knocked out of the semifinal with a 3-1 loss to Senegal. Cameroon would make it here after finishing top of Group A. and they would end up losing to Egypt on penalty kicks. So, of course, this will be Group A's 1 versus 2 for the third round for the third place matchup. And then, of course, the final will be tomorrow. And, of course, I'll get to that as we get to it day by day. But, of course, with that said, I want to thank the ESPN, the NCAA, NFL, NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed before I got into today's episode. And, of course, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 30 minutes of this episode. I do hope all is well. And with that said, I will catch you all with another episode of The Elite tomorrow on Sunday, February 6th, for another episode of The Elite once all of today's episodes are done. And with that said, I also want to apologize for all the names that I butchered because I do plan on eventually getting them right. And thanks again for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with more episodes right after this. But thanks for listening, and I'll catch you with more eventually. Peace out.